Welcome to NACTV Reads the News. My name is Linda Dick, and I'm one of the many volunteers that help create programming for our station. NACTV can be seen on MTS Channel 30 or 1030, Westman Cable Channel 117, Bell Satellite Channel 592, or online at nactv.tv. These programs are made possible by our volunteers, staff, advertisers, as well as donations made by you, the viewers. If you are enjoying your NACTV experience, please consider supporting us by either donation or volunteering. You can contact our office at 204-476-2639 or by email at nactv@wcgwave.ca. I will be reading Friday, April 2nd, 2021 edition of the Neepawa Banner and Press. And I'm going to start with Gifts from Grizzly, submitted by the Co-op Media Release. Heritage Co-op, Neepawa Gladstone Co-op, and Minnedosa Lions Club have partnered with Grizzly and Mark Saylor to donate 200 stuffed St. Bernard puppies to children at local hospitals in Minnedosa, Neepawa, and Brandon. Grizzly is a 150-pound licensed St. Bernard therapy dog who visits local hospitals, bringing smiles to the faces of those he meets. Over the past few years, Grizzly and Mark have volunteered their time each week, but since COVID-19 pandemic, they have temporarily had to stop their visits. Mark was determined to find a way to continue to support the patients that he and Grizzly work with, so these stuffed animals will be given to children in the hospital to help remind them that someone is thinking about them. School kids get spring break snack packs. Neepawa Salvation Army provides support for students and families. Written by Kira Patterson of the Neepawa Banner and Press. Neepawa Community Ministries Center, known as NCMC, was busy last week, making sure kids in area schools would be well fed over spring break. The local Salvation Army branch spent about a day and a half packing over 1,300 snack packs for students from kindergarten to grade 12 in Neepawa, Eden, and Brookdale schools. We've been toying with a spring break program of some sort for a while, stated Community Ministries Director Amanda Nottingale. We were inspired by the After the Bell snacks that we have received and distributed through Food Banks Canada this summer. We received some granting funds from Rogers Canada through the Salvation Army, and we felt this was a great project to focus some of those funds to. It was a real community effort getting these packs together. Nottingale noted that they ordered all the food for the snack packs from local grocery stores, who were great to work with. The grocers were so accommodating, given the tight timeline we had with this project, she said. The packing of the snack packs was done last Wednesday evening and much of Thursday. We had 23 volunteers and 5 staff members help out over the day, and a bit it took us to put these together. Nottingale noted, adding that they closed the thrift store on Thursday to be able to use that space for the work. These packs consisted of instant oatmeal, cereal bars, granola bars, applesauce, fruit cups, crackers, cheese, and crackers and fruit snacks. This provided a breakfast item and 2 snack options for 5 days, explained Nottingale. With COVID-19 restrictions still in place, Families are bound to be staying home more, and we felt this was a good support to families during spring break. They also included information about the Neepawa Community Ministries Center food bank services in the packs. Because this information was going to every child in public school, we felt this was a great way to promote some of the resources we can provide to families in financial stress and need. We've already had lots of great feedback from the schools, parents, and kids who have received the packs, she added. We'd love to hear more feedback, good and bad, so we can evaluate if this is a project we should budget for again in the future. Another article written by Kira Patterson, Neepawa Memories Book, Raising Funds for Local Groups. NACTV, Roxy Theatre, benefiting from Rick Sparling's publication. A book full of local stories and history is going to help two Neepawa organizations. Rick Sparling, former Neepawa resident, recently published his 4th book, the proceeds of which will be split between Neepawa Area Community Television and the Neepawa Roxy Theatre. Sparling's latest book, Neepawa Memories and More, is filled with articles he's written for the Neepawa Press and Banner. The stories range from childhood memories to sports history to business history and more, all being related to Neepawa, where Sparling grew up. Work began on the book last fall, and it was completed mid-March of this year. 50 copies were printed and will be for sale at the Neepawa Banner and Press office. Sparling planned to sell the books for the cost of the production, which was originally about $10 per book. But after some adjustments and tweaking, the cost of printing them nearly doubled. He still plans to cover the cost of the books himself, but has changed the price of the books to reflect the amount put in and to benefit the two organizations even more. With 50 books being sold at $20 each, the fundraiser has the capacity to raise $500 for each organization. It's just a contribution to a couple of places who could use a small boost for their budgets, expressed Sparling. I've used both facilities lots over the years. Supplies are limited, so anyone who would like to support the two local nonprofits while getting a keepsake full of interesting articles shouldn't hesitate to come and purchase a copy or two. Thumbs up, thumbs down. A thumbs up to the producers of exercises for older adults and to NACTV for having it in their programs. It is well worthwhile for seniors. Submitted by Bernice Baker, Neepawa. Thumbs up to Shirley, Lauren, and Ava Bremner, who are spending spring break cleaning Neepawa's streets. I challenge Neepawa walkers to wear gloves, carry a bag, and assist them in their healthy, community-minded quest. Liz Sumner, Neepawa. Now we have Out of Helen's Kitchen, Helen Drysdale, entitled Rhubarb. The rhubarb plant sending up its early shoots is one of the first signs of spring. There's nothing better after a long winter than the first taste of rhubarb from the garden. Rhubarb was used only as a medicine for centuries. Rhubarb roots were an important ingredient in numerous Greek and Roman medicines and used for its purifying and laxative properties. It's believed to have been introduced to Europe via Turkey, having been carried there from China. Its root medication was important to the early Hudson Bay Company, as the men ate predominantly a diet of meat. Prolonged constipation was a problem and could be deadly, so powdered rhubarb root was a winter necessity. The 18th century was the start of rhubarb being grown for culinary purposes in Britain and Europe. It did take a while for the rhubarb to move from a medicine to the table. Previously, it was considered too poisonous to be used in cooking, as the leaves are toxic and not to be eaten. In an 1866 Hudson Bay Company report to the London shareholders, rhubarb was listed as an important plant of the company's garden. For the early settlers, it was an important food at the end of winter. After a long cold winter with no fresh foods and garden produce, they needed those nutrients. It became an important plant to establish in the garden. It could be ordered through the Eaton's catalog. Once established and growing well, the very early settlers dug some roots up before winter and brought them inside. If kept in a warm, dark place, midwinter shoots of rhubarb were helpful in the prevention of scurvy. Rhubarb was often canned without syrup to be used in pies and puddings. Fortunately, rhubarb is an incredibly hardy plant that's easy to grow. You cannot kill it with cold or drought. During the Depression, it grew through the drought, usually the only plant to survive. One of my older friends refused to eat rhubarb after living through the 30s. He said he had eaten enough in his childhood to last him a lifetime. Patches of rhubarb plants still live on in abandoned prairie yards. As a child, the other aspect of spring was the stop to the daily dose of cod liver oil that was considered an indispensable part of every child's winter diet. In the early 1900s, doctors frequently recommended that it be given to children to help prevent rickets and other conditions caused by vitamin D deficiency. In 1942, the first Canada Food Guide endorsed all that children receive a daily dose of cod liver oil. In 1949, that endorsement became a requirement. During the winter months, we all lined up in the kitchen, and with the same spoon, one of my parents gave us our daily dose of the nasty stuff. Cod liver oil is still one of the best sources of omega-3 fatty acids and of vitamin A and vitamin D, and I still take it, but I'm happy it comes in an easy-to-swallow capsule form. And Helen has a recipe, rhubarb treat cake. Now we'll move on to the Spruce Plains RCMP report. And this was submitted by Corporal Jacob Stanton. During the week of March 22nd to March 28th, Spruce Plains RCMP dealt with 43 police activities. On March 22nd, RCMP received a report of a lost wallet in the RM of Rosedale. The wallet was later located by the owner. Police responded to a report of mischief in Minnedosa. The matter is still under investigation. Police received a complaint of hit and run to a vehicle in Neepawa. There was insufficient evidence to proceed further. March 23rd, RCMP responded to a report of a missing person in Minnedosa. After an extensive search, the person returned to their residence without incident. Police received a report of a dangerous driver in the RM of Minto O'Donnell. The matter is still under investigation. Police responded to a break and enter to a residence in Minnedosa. March 24th, RCMP conducted COVID compliance checks in Neepawa. All persons were found complying with quarantine regulations. Police responded to a disturbance in Neepawa. Police spoke to all involved parties, and the matter was resolved without incident. March 25th, RCMP responded to a 911 hang-up in Gladstone. Upon investigation, it was determined that it was dialed accidentally by a child in the residence. Police received a report of assault in Minnedosa that was later deemed to be unfounded. March 26th, RCMP were dispatched to a two-vehicle collision in Minnedosa. There were no reported injuries, and a ticket was issued to the driver deemed responsible. Police responded to a report of a suspicious person in Minnedosa and conducted a COVID compliance check in Neepawa. All persons were found complying with quarantine regulations. March 27th, RCMP received a request for a well-being check on a person in Neepawa who was thought to be missing. Police were able to make contact with the person and determined there was no cause for concern. Police responded to a report of an intoxicated person in Neepawa who was causing a disturbance. The person was returned to their residence. March 28th, RCMP responded to a report of an assault in Neepawa. The matter is still under investigation. Police conducted proactive traffic enforcement, engaging with several motorists. RCMP conducted 16 traffic enforcement actions during this reporting period. Article submitted by Kira Patterson of the Neepawa Banner and Press. Keep a keen eye out for scammers. Tax season is a busy time for many, including many scammers, hoping to prey on the unsuspecting taxpayer. Many fraudsters take advantage of this time of year, posing as the Canadian Revenue Agency, telling people they owe the government money and threatening them with jail time if they don't pay up. But scams aren't limited to tax schemes. They come in all shapes and sizes, and the more scams a person knows about, the better their chance of avoiding it. There are two main things scammers are normally after: money or personal information for the purpose of identity theft. There are a number of ways scammers do this, and scams can come via phone, email, text, mail, or even in person. One very common scam is corresponding from someone claiming to be Canada Revenue Agency. They may claim that you owe money and give you instructions on how to pay, sometimes asking for a wire transfer, e-transfer, gift cards, or Bitcoin. Other times they claim you are owed money and ask for your personal information so that they can supposedly send you a check. The Canada Revenue Agency doesn't accept payments with gift cards, e-transfers, Bitcoin, or prepaid credit card. They also don't threaten anyone with jail time. With any written messages, keep an eye out for spelling and grammar mistakes, as that can also hint to a scam. The Canada Revenue Agency will never ask for or include personal information in an email. They don't communicate via text message, and they don't send links for you to click on unless you specifically asked for it over the phone. If you are unsure whether the message you receive is legitimate, you can call the official Canada Revenue Agency number at 1-888-863-8657, or check your account online if you have a CRA online account. Something too good to be true. Other common scams try to appeal to your emotions. Someone might call claiming to be a grandchild that's in a dire situation, such as a car accident or in jail, and needs money immediately. There are also romance scams, where someone on a dating site will try to convince you they're in love with you and then claim to be in need of some money for some reason, like a life-saving surgery, or buy a plane ticket and visit you in person. Or they'll be pretending to want to get to know you and try to get your personal information. Some scammers will try to sell you something. If a deal or a product seems too good to be true, it probably is. Unsolicited emails, texts, house calls, or letters often will try to pressure you into buying something or convince you that you need this product. Even sponsored social media posts can be fraudulent. The best way to avoid being scammed by sales is to make sure the business you're purchasing from is a reputable one. Check for reviews on external websites. Look them up on the Better Business Bureau website. Keep an eye out for spelling and grammar mistakes, and don't give any personal or financial information to any business or individual you're unsure about. How to report scams. If someone has tried to scam you, there are several ways to report it. Contact the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre to report a scam, as the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre keeps a database of all scams reported to help educate people on what's out there. If you've been the victim of fraud or identity theft, in addition to reporting it to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre, contact the RCMP. If your credit card or banking information has been compromised, contact your banking institution or credit card company to have your account put on hold and protected from further fraudulent purchases. The Government of Canada puts out lots of information from a variety of sources on how to look out for scams. Through agencies such as the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre, Competition Bureau Canadian, and the CRA. Information for this article was sourced from the CRA and the Competition Bureau Canada's Little Black Book of Scams. Many of these resources can be found at the Home Assistance Neepawa District Hand Office or on the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre website for those interested in learning more. Now we're going to move on to an article issued by Casper Wareham of the Neepawa Banner and Press, and it is History with the Beautiful Plains Museum. Behind this team of Ox is Jack Simpson's furniture and undertaking business. According to the Manitoba Historical Society, Simpson was born near Milton, Ontario in June 1856. He moved to Neepawa to pursue furniture and undertaking in 1895, and he owned a considerable amount of real estate within the town. He was partly responsible for the construction of several blocks in Neepawa. At some point, he partnered with William H. Gwynn, founding the business Gwynn and Simpson. The Historical Society also states that Simpson was the maternal grandfather of local author Margaret Lawrence and was the basis for character Hagar Shipley in her novel The Stone Angel. "30 years ago, Tuesday, April 2nd, 1991. Just when we thought spring was here to stay, Old Man Winter rose up and delivered a stinging blow last week. 4 inches of snow were dumped on the area last Tuesday and Wednesday, obviously making all forms of transportation hazardous. Area farmers lost an elevator last April when the petrol terminal burned to the ground. There are no plans to rebuild it." And that was 30 years ago. Community news Gladstone-based sewing enthusiast, celebrates World Quilting Day. An avid quilter in Gladstone celebrated World Quilting Day on Saturday, March 20th. Isabel Carruthers displayed a number of her quilts outside her home for locals to enjoy. She noted that with COVID-19 limiting the events people can have, she wanted to offer something to get people out of the house and bring a smile to their faces. I just wanted to bring some cheer to the neighborhood, and this was one way I could. With World Quilt Day, Carruthers stated. She said that next year she hopes to plan something a little more ahead of time and potentially get other Gladstone quilters involved. Moments in Riding Mountain, Inspiring Mentors, submitted by Ken Kingdon. Spring marks the anniversaries of the passing of two people who had the most influence on me as a naturalist. These two people are my mom, Joan Kingdon, and my friend, Bob Walden. Interestingly, they were both born in 1932, and no doubt both were impacted by the Depression and World War II. Perhaps these historic times also influenced how they lived their lives as adults. Mom passed away in May of 2015, and Bob died in March of 2020, just as the pandemic started to curtail visitation at hospitals. Amazed by chickadees. For those who knew her, it wouldn't be a surprise that Mom had such an impact on us 7 kids. It's not that Dad didn't play a role in shaping us. As a farmer, Dad was always outside, and naturally we children were drawn to play and work outdoors alongside him. However, it was Mom who really inspired me to explore the natural world. My theory is that when we were younger, we see our parents engaged in something and we just assume that this is the way of life and should be. When I was a kid, there were several seminal moments when I remember Mom taking pleasure from the natural world that they became a part of me. Surprisingly, each was a minor event. The first one I remember was when, in the mid-1970s, a flock of evening grosbeaks made our farm their winter home. Mom was enthralled. Every day she would feed them black sunflower seeds, enticing them to stick around. To a house full of rambunctious kids, they seemed to be an exotic species, like parrots, and Mom took great pleasure from them. I remember, too, her being amazed when a chickadee chose to make a nest near the chicken house. We didn't notice them until they were nearly ready to leave the nest. The 9 nestlings literally stacked on top of each other, struggling to be the one to get a look at the wider world. Mom was also the one who would always instigate trips into the great outdoors, family in tow. While I was still young, she convinced Dad to fix up a squadron of bikes so that we could all go bicycling into Muskrat Lake in Riding Mountain National Park for a picnic supper and do some fishing. Forever on the cutting edge, she also convinced Dad that they should buy a pair of early model mountain bikes from Dijon's in Brandon. These bikes were used on many biking trips over the next 25 years, including several backcountry trips in Riding Mountain. Becoming a student interpreter. As the kids got older and fled the nest like a bunch of chickadees, she continued her adventuring ways. Again, as an early adopter, she bought a little kayak before they became all the rage, and she spent time on local lakes and rivers, bobbing along in her stubby blue boat, her big brimmed hat flapping in the wind. I also seem to recall that she was nearly as pleased as I was when I was offered a summer position with a student interpreter with Riding Mountain National Park. And it was this job that led me to being introduced to my next important mentor. an adventurous spirit he was. Bob Walden was a long-time amateur naturalist in Manitoba, and true to his adventurous spirit, he left behind his successful publishing business in Winnipeg to become a seasonal park interpreter while in his 50s. He called himself, in his self-deprecating way, the world's oldest park interpreter. In truth, he was physically fitter than most of his co-workers. He would think nothing of tromping through the bush, a gaggle of students in his wake. It's hard to describe how much influence Bob had on me. Bob was born and raised on a family farm near Killarney, so his experiences resonated with me. He knew Manitoba's wildlife in depth and could recite endless interesting facts and figures about each species. As a natural teacher, Bob encouraged us to ask questions and look for answers. He was inclusive and answered the stupidest questions with grace and humor, and was always gentle when correcting the most blatant misinformation. One of the key things that he encouraged us to do was to take natural history notes, following in the footsteps of such noted Manitoba naturalists as Ernest Thompson Seton and Norman Criddle. This advice really struck home with me, and to this day, Ray can attest that I have nature notes stuck here and there, filling many little journals randomly stashed in our bookcase. Bob was also the inspiration for this newspaper column, and that he wrote regularly for the Manitoba Cooperator, among other papers on nature-themed subjects. But Bob's influence was rooted deeper than this. It is his and his partner, Carol Chester's, indomitable spirits that continue to inspire me. Like my mom, Bob lived life with gusto and seized opportunities to explore the world around him. He never shied away from new adventures and to live a life of his own design. Springtime is a good time to mark the passing of heroes. The world is becoming reborn. The birds are returning and the frogs calling. And I will remind myself to embrace each moment, as Joan did, and record them in my notebook, with Bob's wry commentary whispering in my ear. Ken Kingdon lives and works in Prince Albert National Park. He acts as a mentor for the pet rabbit by eating his greens daily. Here and There by Gladwin Scott. Experts from the Town Council meeting March 9th held in the basement of the old town offices. The owner of 33 Main Street, Old BMO, applied for a permit to remove the roof and third story and replace with acacia rafters, plus remediate asbestos from the second floor before winter. Development Officer Andrews advised to get an approved plan prior to council approval. Gave approval to derelict vehicles bylaw and storage of vehicles bylaw for third and final reading. Received $116,394.79 from the Minister of Municipal Relations as a fire protection grant to upgrade equipment. Fire Department recorded nearly $11,000 from March 6th fundraiser. February 2021 accounts totaling $102,583.19 were approved. The Artseer 50/50 fundraiser netted a grand total of $8,910. Ken Carrot was the 50/50 winner, and he donated his share back to the committee. Special thanks to the organizers, Krista Strain, Leah Bryant, Melanie Lavich, and all the volunteer sellers. Town Facilities Manager Chris Unraw has indicated that the local arena ice will be available until April 25th, as hockey players and skaters are able to practice some physical education classes, use the arena for curling, skating, and sticks and pucks activities. Masks are worn to observe COVID-19 restrictions. With the prospects of an early spring, Carberry minor ball enthusiasts are organizing for a new season being shut down by COVID-19 in 2020. Darcy Kendall and Mary Barron are president and register, respectively, and the girls' teams will play in the Brandon Softball League. There are good registrations in 8 and under, 10 and under, 12 and under, 16 and under, and 18 and under, but some of the older teams need help. Chris Unraw is vice president of the Pembina Hills Baseball League and coach of the 18 and under team. There was good registration in the 9 and under, 11 and under, 13 and under, and 15 and under baseball teams, although more players are needed in the upper classes. With the good graces of the health department, plus plenty of fresh air, the ball programs will return to normal. Also by Gladwin Scott, the Enerson Gushu win the Canadian mixed curling. Carrie Enerson and Brad Gushu captured the Canadian mixed doubles curling championship by defeating John Morris and Daniel Scheiman 7-6 in the semifinal, and defeating Colton Lott and Kadriana Shahadak 9-6 in the final in Calgary. They received $50,000 in first place prize money and qualified for the World Mixed Doubles in Aberdeen, Scotland, May 17th to the 25th. Lott and Scheidak are from Winnipeg Beach and have won 2 silvers and a bronze in Canadian mixed doubles. They are getting married this summer. Team Manitoba, represented by Kristen Karwacki of Winnipeg and Carberry's Derek Shimalski, finished with a 3-3 record in Pool D and narrowly missed the 12-rink playoffs. They won over Sauter Botcher 6-5, King, Northwest Territories 15-5, Jones Everest, Nova Scotia 9-3, but they lost to Miscue and Fry 10-8. Lefty Sweeting and Kennedy 9-3, and Burchard and Snyder 4-2. Their third loss to Bernard and Schneider eliminated them from the playoffs. 35 pairs qualified for the popular event, including family rink, 2 father-daughter combinations, and many hotshot curlers. Darren Moulding, who curls third for national champion Brendan Botcher, had to withdraw from the event with his partner, Joanne Courtney, due to back spasms. The World Men's event starts in Calgary, April 2nd, tomorrow. In mixed doubles, one curler throws rocks 1 and 5, while the other partner handles stones 2, 3, and 4, with the power play used as an offensive and defensive strategy. Home Hardware is the major sponsor of the Mixed Doubles Nationals. Good luck to Enerson and Gushu. And Neepawa Banner and Press submitted by Gladwin Scott a community profile on Megan Peters. Megan Peters, age 17, is a member of the Carberry Collegiate 2021 graduating class. Currently, she only needs one course, Essential Mathematics, to graduate, and enjoys community service in the Carberry Library with branch manager Lori McNiven. An academic credit is earned for 110 hours of service. COVID-19 and online learning have definitely been a challenge for Megan during the past year. People who have influenced Peter's life include her parents, Mother Danielle, an animal lover, and Father Phil, an RCMP corporal. plus her Grandpa John, who is a hard-working Newfoundlander. He was formerly the principal of the high school and now serves as mayor of Port aux Basques. Megan, like her mother, enjoys their small farm animals, goats, rabbits, ponies, etc. And I'm sure she likes her mother too. After graduation, she would like to study business at a college in British Columbia. Her family has sold their house and are moving to BC after grad, but are certainly sorry to leave Carberry. Best of luck, Megan. 2 obituaries were submitted in April 2nd edition of the Neepawa Banner and Press. Ron Stewry Forsman. Ron passed away at the Country Meadows Personal Care Home in Neepawa on March 25th, 2021, with family by his side. Jean Mary Dunn, Nee Cardno. Jean, beloved wife of the late Alan Dunn, passed away peacefully at St. Joseph's Hospice in Medicine Hat, Alberta, on March 16th, 2021. This next article was submitted by Cereals Canada, coming together to set Canadian wheat research goals. When the Canadian Wheat Research Priorities Task Group convened in 2019 to begin the consultative process that would create the 2020 to 2022 priorities, they purposely invited representatives along the entire wheat value chain from across Canada. This is tremendous value in having everyone at the table, said Dean Diaz, CEO of Cereals Canada, the organization that co-chaired the development of the research priorities together with Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada. We set out to have the entire value chain involved to have a view from research on what is possible and what to focus on, a view from growers on yield and profitability, and a view from customers and exporters who know what is needed in the marketplace. And there is the role that groups funding public research, including Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, have in contributing to setting research priorities, said Diaz. Adam Dick understands the value of an inclusive process from both sides of the table. He co-chaired the theme on customer quality, and for the past 11 years, he's been in charge of Canadian operations for Warburton's, the largest bakery in the UK that sources over 50% of its wheat from its long-running Canadian Identity Preserve program. There was an open invitation across the wheat value chain to participate, including public and private wheat breeders, the seed industry, growers, grain companies, millers, end users, and academia, said Dick. With all these voices around the table, you develop outcomes that carry a lot of weight and represent the industry's wishes. Having everyone in the value chain involved in priority setting helps develop a strong theme. Balancing standard wheat breeding goals with the quality traits that end users want is an interesting and ongoing challenge when setting research goals around the customer quality theme. We need to make sure that outcomes fit the end use purpose, said Dick. So that's what we're asking of wheat breeders in terms of quality, actually fit what end users want. One example of customer quality research that could benefit the whole value chain is work on rapid testing for qualities like gluten strength and milling properties. Researchers are looking at cost-effective, rapid testing tools that could help breeders measure these quality traits early in the breeding process. This ensures that varieties released to market are well suited for the entire chain. All 5 themes in the research priorities document focus on producing more wheat, more consistency, and improving the sector for the benefit of everyone in the value chain. It's a key way to ensure Canada maintains its track record as a source for high-quality wheat around the world. Our goal with these priorities is to keep demand strong, so growers see wheat as a profitable crop and keep acreage up, says Dick. Canada is already a world leader in wheat, so if we collaborate on research priorities and execute them successfully over time, we can keep current customers happy and attract new customers to Canadian wheat. Another critical element of the collaborative priority setting is to deliver a clear message to wheat research funders on what the value chain agrees the priorities are. This shared voice is extremely powerful, and it's why it was so important to ensure representation from the entire value chain. We need to invest in research in the right places, and another reason for the strategy to include funding groups in the priority setting process. Bringing all the players in the sector together to develop shared priorities for Canadian wheat research builds a balanced, informed approach that considers multiple aspects. You could have high-quality wheat that doesn't yield well, or high-quality wheat that doesn't meet the need of end-use customers, says Diaz. That's why it's so critical to build a loop where the industry come together to have those types of discussions as a whole value chain to set relevant targets for wheat research in Canada. And got it. I'm now going to read you Homebodies by Rita Friesen. And her article is The Gifts That Keep on Giving. Years ago, a dog breeder graciously gave me the runt of a litter. Truthfully, I could have my pick, and the only one I wanted was the tiniest puppy. I took my time giving him a name. One must pick a name that suits the creature. In just a few days, his name was Hoover, after the vacuum, not the president. There was a hiccup in the first year when he ingested some human meds, and I learned that I could fill a baster with salt solution and force it down his throat. A baster, sorry. I learned that I could sit up all night with a wee doggy that needed care. Within a few months, a phone call informed us that Henry Hoover's sister needed a safe home. Sorry, was my first response. I pushed my luck getting the one dog. After hearing a heartbreaking story about the misfortune the little girl had endured, Miss Daisy joined our home. She was and is a runner. The one spring day, I actually had both dogs off leash at the acreage. One headed up the lane and the other took off after a goose. It was simple to catch Hoover, but the pursuit across the soft field was very different. Screaming at the top of my lungs did not grant me more stamina for the quarter-mile chase. Totally unaware of her crime, Miss Daisy was simply glad to see me. Sometime after that, while tethered, her lead became entangled with the tines of a garden tiller. A quick trip to the vet revealed a slight damage to her tummy. The result, a hernia, we watch. There was a summer eve the two of them found the stash of chocolate. One of our house guests, a forever friend, and I sat on the veranda with them all night long, watching, caring, nurturing, and loving them into wellness. It's part of being a pet owner. They both have strong personalities, and it wasn't until I accepted Miss Daisy as who she is that she has bonded with me. She knows her name, but comes quickly when summoned with treat. She will do anything for food, like her mama, and has a vocal opinion of everyone we meet while walking or that passes the window. Again, like her mama. She hates the prospect of being groomed and disappears at the sound of a clipper. Miss Daisy has mastered telling time. Out at 5 for a bathroom break, up at 7 for breakfast, supper at 4, sharp. Hoover is top dog. Firstborn to this household, regal. Almost above going for a walk. Snags the first body that forms a lap and has now claimed the top of the couch as his vantage point. Can see outside and in both directions inside. My wonderful companions are aging, as am I. We continue to walk almost daily. A little slower, not quite as far. Miss Daisy hurt her front leg when hopping off the bed. Misjudged the distance. Perhaps some vision problems. Her hearing may be going as well. They are almost 12, and I'm 75. We continue to travel apace. And I'm going to move on to right in the center with the editor of the Neepawa Banner and Press, Ken Waddell. Advocacy at its best. Every week seems to bring a new challenge and opportunities. With this column being written from a hospital bed, again, it is a challenge. It is tough enough for me to type at any time, but with an oxygen monitor taped to one hand and an IV port taped to the other, the word challenge takes on a new meaning. The opportunity is to learn new things about my own health and the healthcare system. As earlier reported, I have developed a condition called myasthenia gravis. It is treatable, but it is taking a while. I've reacted badly to one of the meds, and that has caused its own set of problems. This will be my 4th stay in hospital since the end of November, plus 2 trips to the ER. In spite of all my problems and my wife Christine's health issues, we are both very thankful. Generally speaking, our healthcare system is amazing. Sometimes we have delays, especially compared to the United States, but nonetheless, we have an amazing system. There is one improvement that has been severely hampered by COVID-19 rules. That improvement is the need for greater adoption of having every patient have an advocate. The healthcare system is great, but it can be difficult to work your way through without somebody alongside, be it an extra pair of hands, an extra set of eyes and ears, and most of all, an occasional need to speak up on a patient's behalf. Especially with a multi-hospital situation and so many staff and shifts, details sometimes just get missed. Usually no big stuff, but things do get missed. Every patient needs a caring advocate. Could be a spouse, a sibling, a parent, a volunteer, but it needs to happen. There is another thing we are thankful for, and that is Good Friday and all it stands for. Jesus was born, and we celebrate that at Christmas time. But today is Good Friday, and at first glance, it always been tough for me to see the good part. As we look closer, it is indeed good. Good that Jesus died on the cross for us, and even better that he rose on Easter Sunday, a Savior for all people. Jesus is also often spoken of us as an advocate. We need an advocate in healthcare to help make our way through. Fortunately, Jesus is more than willing to be our advocate from birth to death and beyond. Faithfully yours, submitted by Neil Strojein. It's Friday, but Sunday's coming. Those words are not original with me. I first heard them many years ago while watching a video message by retired pastor, educator, and motivator Tony Campolo. Those in his audience were insurance agents, financial advisors, and other business people. Many of them were struggling. Sales figures were down. Investments were not doing well. Some were struggling to make ends meet. Some were ready to give up. Campolo didn't have any magic words that would suddenly make everything better. He knew that those in his audience needed one thing more than anything else. They needed hope. And that's what he gave them. To effectively convey his message, Campolo borrowed some words from a sermon the senior pastor of his church had given a few weeks earlier. The title was, you guessed it, It's Friday, but Sunday's coming. The truth contained in these words goes back nearly 2,000 years to the day when Jesus Christ, God the Son, God revealed in human form, was arrested, tried, falsely accused, convicted, tortured, tormented, and ultimately put to death for crimes that he had not committed. For his disciples, this was the ultimate blow. They had acknowledged him as their king. They believed he would be the one to deliver ancient Israel from their Roman overlords. But Jesus had done none of these things. And when his enemies conspired against him to put him to death, Jesus did nothing to stop them. His disciples could only shake their heads in dismay and ask, why? Those questions would remain with them for several days. Then they would hear the news that Jesus was alive, and he wanted to see them, and that they saw him. All their questions would be answered. We traditionally commemorate Jesus' death on a Friday. We celebrate his resurrection on a Sunday. Friday is a day of doom and gloom. Sunday is a day of victory. On Friday, all the evil in the world was focused on Jesus Christ. On Sunday, he emerged as the winner, the one who had faced everything the world, the flesh, and the devil could throw at him and had defeated them all. Friday was a day of sorrow. Sunday, the day of joy. The things that happened to Jesus should never have taken his disciples by surprise. They had often spoken about his death and the means by which he would die. But he had also told them that he would rise again. They were not to lose hope or give in to despair when he died. Brighter days were ahead. All he asked them to do was believe his words and allow his promises to give them the hope they needed in those dark days. That is the same message he sends to you and me today. We all have difficult days. At times, the challenges of life can be so intense that we feel like giving up. We may even find ourselves envying those who have died and wishing we could do the same. Whatever you do, don't give in to despair. Remember, it may be Friday, but Sunday's coming. The challenges we face won't last forever. One day, COVID-19 will be yesterday's news. The heartaches and heartbreaks you're facing today will be faint memories. Better days are ahead for all of us. Because of our faith in Jesus Christ, we can face and overcome whatever life sends us. We can look every challenge in the eye and say, it may be Friday, but Sunday's coming, and we are going to win. Now we're going to look back, and this was submitted. The looking back is submitted by Casper Wareham of the Neepawa Banner and Press. 100 years ago, April 1st, 1921. The death of Mrs. R.J. McCracken, formerly of the Spring Hill District, took place at Medicine Hat, Alberta Hospital on Friday, March 25th. The body, accompanied by the husband and brother, was removed to Acadia, Nova Scotia, the home of her parents, for internment. The sincere sympathy of a host of friends goes out to the bereaved ones. 90 years ago, Friday, April 3rd, 1931, the town of Treeherne, Manitoba, suffered a $9,000 fire loss on Tuesday. 4 places of business were destroyed. A group of Neepawa footballers are under the impression that a club should be formed in Neepawa for the coming season, being quite confident that there are many who would make fine players among the townspeople. Baseball, according to the lack of enthusiasm, will last few years, will probably be a dead issue again this season, and softball, while there is some satisfaction for the persons playing, is not a good game to draw spectators. If there was a rousing revival of football, a team could help keep Neepawa on the map as a lively town by traveling around to the different fairs, etc., during the summer. It is probable that a meeting will be called shortly to get a club formed, so as to be well prepared when weather permits to begin practicing. "70 years ago, Thursday, April 5th, 1951, 2 87-year-old sisters of Kelwood stand today as Manitoba's oldest twins. They are Mrs. Harriet Derry and Mrs. Helen McMillan, born at Bellevue, Ontario on November 4th, 1863. Their brother, William Fletcher of McCreary, celebrated his 82nd birthday on the same date as his twin sisters. Mrs. Derry and Mrs. McMillan make their home with a nephew, Mr. and Mrs. Charles McMillan, north of Kelwood. The latest edition of Sporting News, the baseball periodical, which is read by thousands of players and fans all over North America, carries announcement that A.F. Dick McKenzie of Neepawa has been named on the honor roll of the National Association of Umpires. 7,000 men in blue belong to this organization. There are only 20 members in Canada. Mr. McKenzie was the only umpire honored in Manitoba. "60 years ago, April 4th, 1961, the art of horse trading is not dead. During the past couple of weeks, a pair of Ontario farmers traveled through central Manitoba purchasing horses for work on an Ontario farms, and a carload of 17 was shipped Thursday morning from Eden. The horses were purchased in an area ranging from Neepawa north as far as Ochre River, but moving in the Burnie, Kelwood, Glenella, Plumas area. Most of them will likely be sold to tobacco farmers in the Hamilton, Kitchener districts. Funeral services for Mrs. Eva Clare, 77, of I. Roslin Road, Winnipeg, was held Saturday at 11 a.m. at the A.B. Gardner Funeral Home, Winnipeg. Interment took place at 3 p.m. at the family plot at Riverside Cemetery in Neepawa. Miss Clare died Wednesday, March 20th, after a long illness in Princess Elizabeth Hospital. Born in Neepawa, the elder daughter of the late Mr. and Mrs. J.A. Clare, she received her early education here and began her career as a humble music teacher. After study in Berlin and New York, under Stepanoff, Joseph Levine, Ernest Hutchinson, and Isidore Philip, Miss Clare came to Winnipeg in 1918. During many visits abroad in the 1920s, Miss Clare presented recitals in London, Prague, Budapest, Vienna, and Munich. She was internationally renowned as a pianist, music teacher, and author. 50 years ago, Thursday, April 1st, 1971, Osborne residents. 4 generations come together in the Residence Friday when Mrs. H.N. Irving of Riding Mountain and her granddaughter and great-grandson, Mrs. L.W. Gussa and Jimmy of Calgary, Mr. and Mrs. Jim Collier of Neepawa were honored at a dinner in the Rose Room of the Bamboo Restaurant on the occasion of their 50th wedding anniversary. March 19th, guests numbered 33. They were married in Winnipeg on March 19th, 1921. They have 1 daughter, Velma, Mrs. Jack Johnston, and 2 grandsons. Mr. and Mrs. Collier have resided in various towns in Manitoba and Saskatchewan, and before retiring to Neepawa in 1963, they lived in Swift Current for 16 years, where Mr. Collier was district engineer with the Department of Highways. Neepawa's newest automobile dealer, Glenn McDougall, says he and his wife Elba have always liked the town of Neepawa, but they never dreamed they would one day make their home here. Glenn was born on a farm near Portage-la-Prairie and had spent most of his life in the Portage area. He had been associated with a Datsun dealership in that city for some time and says he liked the product so well and was so impressed with the workmanship and dependability of the automobile that he decided to apply for a franchise for a dealership in Neepawa. He purchased the former White Rose Surface Station just north of the post office, and for the past 2 months has been renovating the building and been installing equipment and is now ready for his official celebration, which will take place this Saturday at 1:30 p.m. 40 years ago, April 2nd, 1981, Dan Kowich, owner of the Photography by Dan Studio in Neepawa, won top awards for 2 of his photographs at the annual McMaster Professional Photographers Convention in Regina, March 22nd to 24th. He received the trophy as first place for Outstanding Female Portrait and a second place ribbon for Animal Portrait. Dan's total of 5 selections competed with entries by photographers from across the 4 western provinces. Other contest categories included wedding, male and baby portrait, and general scenics. Dan owned his studio in Neepawa almost 1 year ago and has been practicing photography ever since. He joined the McMaster franchise 1 month ago and currently works Tuesday to Thursday and Saturday in Dauphin with photographer Bill Green and spends Friday in Neepawa. Dan's double ribbon winners are presently on display in the studio, which is open Tuesday to Saturday. 20 years ago, Monday, April 2nd, 2001. Turtle River School Division will pay around $10,000 to keep some of the computer equipment supplied by Athena Education Partners. Athena offered state-of-the-art technology packages in return for schools showing Youth News Network newscasts. The newscasts originally contained commercials, but they were pulled following a public outcry. And I will finish off with Observation by Addie Oberlin. Sometime I watched a documentary about a person who was sentenced to many years in prison for a crime she had not committed. It took her many years of writing letters to convince the authorities that she was innocent of the crime that she was charged with. Jesus was convicted of a crime that he was innocent of. Even the authority did not find him guilty. It was the people who wanted Jesus to die on a cross. It was the most cruel death that was awaiting Jesus. However, he obeyed his Father's will and went to the cross. His blood had to be shed, and he had to be the sacrifice for our redemption. The death he died to sin once for all. After 3 days, the women went to the tomb to find that it was empty. An angel appeared to them and told them that Jesus was not there, that he was alive. This weekend, we are celebrating Easter. Let's tell one another that our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, has risen. He has risen indeed. And there is a mortgage sale. The building and land known as 622 Park Avenue in St. Rose de Lac, Manitoba, as described in certificate title number 2895071/6, will be sold by auction on Wednesday, the 28th of April, 2021, by way of video or teleconference at 11 a.m. Further information and copies of the conditions of this sale can be obtained from Levine Tadman Golub Law Corporation, barristers and solicitors in Winnipeg. And that, my friends, is the Neepawa Banner and Press of Friday, April 2nd, 2021. Volume 125, number 36, right here in Neepawa, Manitoba, with the editor, Ken Waddell. My name's Linda Dick, and thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this week's paper.